About a year ago, Nigeria introduced the digital version of its official currency, the eNaira. The introduction of the eNaira was partly a response to concerns that the rising popularity of crypto in the country was threatening the banking system. There are a few countries experimenting with their own versions of the digital money, including the Central African Republic, China, Jamaica, the Bahamas, and various islands in the Eastern Caribbean. Other countries, including the United States, are in the studying and thinking deep thoughts about feasibility, face of things. But how is it going for Nigeria and the eNaira? Let's discuss with the president of the Association of Capital Markets Academics of Nigeria, ACMAN, Professor Uche Uwaleke. Prof, thank you so much for your time on the show. We appreciate this. Let's get to the business. Now, do you agree first that it's because of the concerns around crypto and all of the other markets? You think that was what prompted the CBN introducing the eNaira in the first place? So what do you think prompted this move? Let's start on that note.
Well, I think it's part of it. While recognizing other motivations for introducing central bank the currency, the threat, the rising threat, being posed by private currencies, one could say, is major. It's a major reason you find many central banks now, attempting to introduce their own digital currencies. The truth of the matter is that since 2009, when the blockchain white paper, was released by the man who goes by a nickname, if you like, Satoshi Nakamoto. Since that invention of Bitcoin, central bankers have not known sleep, so to say. The rise of private digital currency, is posing a major threat. And that's because this is one payment system that has a technology, decentralized technology, peer-to-peer technology, that is exogenous to central bank. By that I mean over which central banks have no control. Remember that the primary mandate of central banks, most central banks, has to do with maintaining monetary and price stability. And that, of course, means or entails having a handle on money supply. So the moment central bank can no longer have the control over money supply, then it becomes an issue. The central bank will be unable to perform its function. So central banks feel concerned, and that's why, as of September 2022, according to the Atlantic Council, the Atlantic Council Digital Currency Tracker.
All right, there we'll try to connect again with Prof. Prof, are you back now? Well, interesting conversation. Okay, Prof, take it away. We lost our audio along the line.
Yes, but can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So the point I was making is that yes, that's a major reason, and I have told you why. Central banks have reason to worry about that. The decline in the use of cash in many economies is also telling central banks that they need to do something about it. So that is why, of course, in October 2020, the Central Bank of the Bahamas, is reputed to be one of the first to do that, on a national scale, to introduce the sand dollar. Before then, of course, we had the central banks of Sweden, also, looking into that. Now, that report by Atlantic Council, which I mentioned earlier, said that 50 countries, 50 central banks are already at an advanced stage, whether in terms of development or in terms of pilots or even full rollout. And as you know, Nigeria has is leading the train in Africa. The first to introduce central bank currency that was on October 25th, 2021, as you said, as you rightly mentioned. And interestingly, Nigeria is already in the second phase of the implementation. That second phase, sometime in August. So I think central banks have justification for introducing central bank currency, aside from other motivations, as I mentioned. We also have many of them concerned about financial inclusion. Financial inclusion also remains from the major reason central bank.
Good way. Now,
so for me,
yes, I
it's
can
about
hear you.
variety.
Okay, let me ask you that after the 1 year celebration, the CBN governor says clearly, and let me quote him, that more than 700,000 transactions amounting to about 8 billion naira has been recorded on this platform and over 2.5 million visits to the eNaira website. So what is your assessment of this level?
I think, oh yes, Tolu. I think for a first time mover, a first time move, CBDC mover, that's a remarkable achievement. The last 1 year, according to the central bank, 700,000 transactions have gone, valued at 8 billion naira. Central bank also says has minted 3 billion naira worth of eNaira and issued 2.1 billion to commercial banks. And more important, it has onboarded 1 million customers and over 3,000 merchants. Okay, so I think that's, as I said, remarkable achievement for a first-time CBDC mover. This is something you expect from maybe a last mover or somebody that is not a first-timer. But this is the first country, doing it in Africa, and just in the last 1 year, this much has been achieved. I think it speaks to the potentials that the eNaira, has. Talks about 10 naira, more possibilities, and I think that the central bank uh, during the second phase may not be too far away from their targets of 8 million, customers, because second phase are targeting 8 million, especially with the introduction of the quick code, the 997 unstructured supplementary service data, and the USS, which allows allows you to have access to the eNaira, even where there is no internet. So I think that's the game changer. It's going to help to improve the adoption of the eNaira, because if you can transact the business offline, that will be a very good incentive for people to, want to embrace the eNaira. So I think so far that's so good. It's also in line with what we know in theory. In theory, there's what we call the diffusion of innovation theory. Tolu, I would like you to read that up after this program. Read up diffusion of innovation theory. It talks about the stages that it takes a new product, a new technology, such as the eNaira, to go, stages it goes through from introduction up to the time it receives a widespread adoption. So at the very first stage, the theory argues that you are likely to get about just 2.5% of the target population using it as innovators. And much later, you're likely to get about 13.5% of the target population using it. So what that means is that if you just suppose the 1 million people already onboarded, okay, against the backdrop of this theory, then you can say that the central bank, in terms of pushing this eNaira project, implementing it, has done very well. Knowing full well that the full adoption is something that happens, over time. With, of course, mass campaign and mass awareness among the public. So I think it's one product that has been is receiving a lot of favorable consideration, by the market. I use that because, of course, we have a lot of payment platforms, online payment platforms already. So that of the eNaira for me is simply bringing about variety, and variety we say is the spice of life. I don't think it's meant to crowd out or push out these other privacy. Yes, because that's important. The Bank for International Settlement makes it clear that for the eNaira project to succeed, it should have three principles. One of the principles is do no harm. That means that the eNaira should not be implemented in such a way that it will interfere with monetary policy. And the second principle is coexistence. The eNaira project, remember, it's government-backed. eNaira is cash in electronic form that has the backing of the government, the liability of the central bank. That it should be able to coexist with cash, and it should be able to also coexist with other private sector digital products. Okay, so it should not crowd them out. So we should not implement the eNaira in such a way that it will now be to the detriment of financial intermediation that is done by the commercial banks. So of course the third principle is innovation. So what I'm saying is this: that for me it's a variety. Customers, consumers, end users should see it as another product, another payment platform that they can use. So the idea of having this variety, of having substitutes or options, for end users, I think is welcome. I think the eNaira project is something that we should all embrace.
You again that talking financial inclusion here, wanting to move from 64% to 95% is what CBN is looking at. But let's do an assessment of our financial ecosystem. Do you think that we are reducing or moving away from cash economy to a cashless economy? And it's a two-in-one question. Also, react to the plan redesigning of the Naira by the Apex Bank. It's a two-in-one question. Take your time to answer. We'll wrap up on that note.
Oh yes, Tolu. Of course, I was also going to link the two because when you talk about how we have gone in terms of the cashless policy, I think the eNaira will further boost it. I also think the current plan by the central bank to redesign the Naira will equally boost it. If you, in terms of financial inclusion, for example, if you can use the eNaira just by having a basic phone, not even a smartphone, a basic phone, and you can use the eNaira in a remote area without internet. Of course, that will mean that a lot of people in the rural areas, should be able to do that, would be able to do that, and that will encourage financial inclusion. Remember too that will also mean that they don't necessarily need to have a bank account to be able to do that. Okay, and in the case of the Naira that is being redesigned, of course, the plan is to again have control over money supply, which I mentioned earlier. Currency in circulation is part of is a component of broad money supply. Of course, broad money supply is made up of narrow money plus savings, time, and foreign currency deposits. So if you have a situation in which the currency in circulation, which is made up of the money the bank holds and the one circulating outside, you have more circulating outside, over 80% we are told. Out of the 3.2 trillion naira currency in circulation, about 2.7 trillion we are told is circulating. So that is causing a lot of discussion. That is creating problems even in the forex market because it is this huge cash that is supporting us that is used to speculate, attack the naira, attack, yes, speculate attacks on naira in the forex market. So by mopping up this money into the banking system, what that does is number one, we also increase the ability of banks to also further create money. It put them in a stronger position to also give credit. Because if the money is circulating outside, banks cannot, make credit with such. So you find that interest rates in the economy will be high. Small businesses cannot access credit because the banks themselves are having challenges. But with this money now inside the banking sector, you will find liquidity will improve. You will find you are also likely to have interest rates drop, and access to credit, especially on the part of the private sector, will improve. So these are the benefits I see from this mop up. And remember too that after the money is mopped up, it is not as though the entire thing, 2.7 also new money will be printed and released. No, I think that what the central bank is also trying to do is to encourage people to use more of electronic channels as a cashless thing, including those in the rural areas. Because we understand that even for you to change your old money into new money, it has to be paid into an account. Banks have been told not to create any suspense account or put the money into any criminal account, but into bank accounts. So that means that before the money can be changed, it has to be through the bank account. So what it means is I expect that the number of bank accounts will be opened as a result of this process. So that, of course, will mean financial, more financial inclusion. And remember, when you have a bank account, you're a customer of the bank. And then that also puts you in a position to qualify for credit. Okay? And that's what financial inclusion does. It gives you access to, credit, particularly for micro businesses. So I think the design is welcome. It's a good thing that the central bank is implementing. The motive for me is right. The other thing, so this eNaira project is complementing. Two of them combined, will achieve other things I should be able to achieve, more financial inclusion, and then, as I said, even help the central bank to perform its primary function, its primary mandate, because it will somehow make it a lot more easier for the central bank to implement monetary policy, which, of course, has the primary target of any price stability, controlling inflation, particularly the monetary aspect of inflation, the inflation that is caused by monetary power. Central bank doesn't have control over life. It becomes pretty difficult to do that. So the redesign is good. The only reservation I have about the design, the start date. I've always said the start date, should have been pushed January instead of starting in December or starting on December 15th. I thought it's something that they should have pushed January, just the way that they pushed the national national domestic card, the national domestic card scheme being again championed by the central bank, which again should provide variety to Visa and Mastercard. So that is not taking effect until January 16th. So I was also expecting that the design, should start from January and not December because of the challenges we usually have in December in terms of cash.
All right, Prof. Yes, Prof. That is what our time can take on the show today. Thank you so much for your insights. As usual, President Association of Capital Markets Academics of Nigeria, ACMAN, Professor of Finance and Capital Markets. Thank you so much. It's Professor Uche Uwaleke. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
It will be my pleasure.